Ever get that sudden pit in your stomach when you remember an unpaid bill? That micropanic where your brain runs a rapid-fire calculation to see if you can survive the month without overdraft fees? I lived with that feeling almost every week. But what surprised me most wasn't the stress itself. It was how much mental space it consumed. Every quiet moment, every decision, every thought about the future was invaded by money worries. I'm Nick, and for years I thought that stress about money was just a part of adult life. Like paying taxes or dealing with back pain, it was something to endure. Then I realized something shocking. Most of what we think about money is wrong. People assume money buys things: cars, houses, vacations, security. True, superficially. But what I discovered is money's most important power isn't buying stuff. It's freeing your mind. Money buys mental bandwidth. It gives your brain room to breathe. Without it, you're not just financially strapped, you're cognitively constrained. Your mind becomes a computer running too many background processes of panic. This isn't theory, it's science. Researchers at Princeton found that financial worry reduces cognitive function, effectively lowering your IQ by 13 points. Imagine trying to plan your life with a processor that's already maxed out. That's what money anxiety does. Think about this in everyday life. You're considering a higher-paying job with a long commute or a lower-paying one closer to home. But you can't make a clear choice because part of your brain is still calculating whether you can pay next month's insurance. You want to invest in education, start a side hustle, or take a risk, but the immediate bills hijack all strategic thinking. This is the true poverty trap. Not just buying cheap boots repeatedly because you can't afford quality ones, but a deeper cycle. Stress makes you less capable, which leads to worse choices, which worsens stress. A cognitive spiral. Society blames the people caught in this spiral, calling them reckless or lazy. But imagine solving complex problems with a constant internal scream. Can I pay this? What if the car breaks? How will I survive next month? The poor decisions aren't moral failings. They're the brain under siege. I learned this firsthand. Sitting in a coffee shop trying to work on a career project, I stared at my laptop for 90 minutes doing nothing. My checking account had $340. Rent was due. No paycheck had arrived. I wasn't lazy. I was mentally overloaded with survival calculations. My brain couldn't plan for the future because it was entirely focused on surviving today. That's the invisible cost of financial stress. It steals your thinking power. Until you address that, nothing else, investing, side hustles, long-term planning, can reach its potential. Here's the part that flipped my perspective. It's not income that reduces financial stress. It's stability. The gap between what you have and what you need determines anxiety, not the number in your paycheck. Two people earning the same salary can feel completely different. One calm and secure, the other constantly panicked. Stress comes from volatility. A $600 unexpected expense can be a minor inconvenience or a full-blown disaster. That's what separates financial security from financial strain. Wealth isn't just about making money. It's about having a cushion that protects your brain from constant crisis. This changes how we should think about money. Conventional advice tells us to invest, save for retirement, and build wealth. All true eventually, but if your mind is in constant panic mode, thinking about the distant future is pointless. The first step isn't wealth, it's a buffer. That first emergency fund creates mental freedom, not material luxury. When I saved $1,500 and vowed not to touch it unless truly necessary, the effect was immediate. My anxiety dropped. I slept better. The low-grade panic that had been my constant companion vanished. Not because my circumstances improved, but because my brain now knew it had breathing room. Psychologically and neurologically, scarcity reduces your brain's ability to plan, control impulses, and think logically. Chronic stress literally shuts down the prefrontal cortex. Freeing your mind from survival mode opens the door to long-term thinking, creativity, and strategic decisions. The magic number? $1,000. It's enough to cover most small emergencies. Flat tires, minor medical bills, broken phones, without derailing your life. It's not about wealth. It's about cognitive liberty. For the first time, you handle problems without panic. Your decisions aren't throttled by survival instinct. Saving this first $1,000 is difficult. Every purchase feels heavy. Convenience items are overpriced. Overdraft fees hit hard. And the poverty premium makes everything more expensive. But perseverance pays off. Each setback teaches you where money leaks, how your spending patterns work, and how to protect yourself. Even small victories matter. My sister tried 4 times to build her emergency fund. Each time, unexpected expenses wiped it out. The financial loss was frustrating, but the psychological damage was worse. Her hope eroded. The system relies on this. Overdraft fees, high-interest loans, and hidden costs trap people in scarcity. But if you persist, you reach that first meaningful cushion. With the buffer in place, emergencies stop being crises. Your relationships, mental health, and long-term thinking improve. You gain clarity, confidence, and agency. Building your first emergency fund is tactical, not theoretical. It's a messy, iterative process. Step 1. Allow yourself to fail. My first attempt lasted 9 days. I saved $87 before an inspection sticker wiped it out. It hurt, but I didn't quit permanently. Each failure reveals where your money actually goes and teaches you to identify hidden leaks. Step 2. Harness the power of anger against the poverty tax. Small fees and markups aren't minor, they're systemic. Use frustration as fuel. Walk extra to avoid ATM fees. Meal prep instead of paying convenience prices. Fight for every dollar. These small acts create the momentum to build the buffer. Step 3. Understand cheap versus frugal. Cheap may save $8 today but costs more over time. Frugal requires upfront capital, often inaccessible when living paycheck to paycheck. Solve this with strategic deprivation. Identify the biggest expense leak and temporarily tighten elsewhere. Cancel unused subscriptions. Repair what breaks. Simplify meals. Make short-term pain temporary and targeted. Progress will be chaotic. Emergencies will drain the buffer, and you'll have to rebuild. But each iteration strengthens your financial insight, discipline, and confidence. Success is measured by upward trajectory, not a straight line. Reaching $1,000 doesn't make you wealthy. It makes you capable. Money transforms from a source of stress to a tool, and mental clarity lets you plan, recognize opportunities, and make empowered choices. You gain the ability to say no to predatory loans, bad jobs, toxic relationships. The buffer buys more than money. It buys freedom, choice, and mental space. That $1,000 is the entry ticket to operating with calm, clarity, and strategic vision. Everything after that compounds. Fail, restart, get mad, persist. You're not just saving money, you're upgrading your mind. Once that happens, financial growth becomes possible because your brain finally has room to see the path forward. Once you've built that first emergency fund, something subtle yet profound begins to happen. You're no longer in constant survival mode. That low-level panic, the background hum of, what if the car breaks? What if rent is late? What if I lose my job? Starts to fade. And with that fading comes clarity. Suddenly, your mind can focus on things beyond immediate survival. Long-term goals, creative projects, and strategic decisions are no longer luxuries. They become possible. This is where most people stumble. They've scraped together the first buffer, felt relief, and then mistakenly think the hard work is over. It isn't. That first $1,000 is the beginning, not the destination. Think of it like the first rung on a ladder. It gives you leverage, but if you stop climbing, you remain stuck at a low level. The next step is learning to expand your mental and financial bandwidth simultaneously. With a stable buffer, you can make smarter, bigger picture decisions. You can negotiate bills, shop intentionally, and plan for investments without the cloud of panic limiting every thought. You start noticing patterns you could never see before. For example, I began analyzing my recurring expenses in detail. Subscriptions I didn't use, minor fees that added up, impulse purchases I barely remembered making. All these small drains suddenly became obvious. With the mental space freed from survival anxiety, I could systematically plug the leaks and redirect those funds toward both my buffer and long-term goals. Another shift is the ability to take calculated risks. Before, Taking any financial risk felt like jumping off a cliff without a parachute. With a buffer in place, risk becomes manageable. You can experiment with a side hustle, invest in skill-building courses, or negotiate a raise without the terror of, what if this fails and I can't pay rent? Each success compounds both financially and psychologically, reinforcing confidence and clarity. A crucial lesson I learned is that financial freedom is more mental than monetary. Sure, money is important. You need it, but the freedom it buys, freedom from panic, freedom to think, freedom to say no is what transforms your life. You begin making decisions not out of desperation, but from strategy. You're no longer reacting to emergencies. You're proactively designing your life. This mindset shift also changes how you see opportunities. Before, I avoided anything that required upfront money or carried risk. After building a buffer, I started saying yes to things that had potential payoff, even if small. A workshop, a course, a networking event, these were now investments, not luxuries. My buffer made them safe to explore. The real power of the buffer isn't just protection, it's leverage. It lets you negotiate better, plan longer, and pursue goals that seemed impossible when every day was about survival. That $1,000 isn't wealth in the traditional sense, but it is the foundation for all future growth. Each additional dollar saved after that builds not just security, but freedom and possibility. And here's the final insight. The buffer transforms your relationship with failure. Before, any unexpected expense felt like a catastrophe. With a buffer, you can handle setbacks without panic. Your decisions are no longer dictated by fear, they are guided by reason. You learn that money is a tool, not a master. You start to operate from a place of agency, not scarcity. The journey from zero to financial freedom is not linear. You will encounter setbacks, surprises, and occasional regressions. But with the first buffer in place, these setbacks no longer define you. You recover faster, make smarter choices, and steadily expand both your mental bandwidth and financial resilience. Chapter 4, in essence, is about transformation. The first 3 chapters teach survival. This chapter teaches strategy. The buffer is no longer just money, it's the launchpad. With it, you can move from just surviving to actually building the life you want. You gain control, foresight, and freedom, the 3 things that allow money to finally serve its true purpose. Giving your mind the space to see possibilities and take meaningful action.